Things have been a bit slow this week. I've had a cold, but I'm feeling a bit better now. I have done a little bit each day on this knurling jig, and it's not going real well. It's been a struggle, and pretty much everything I've tried has failed. I've got one last thing I can think of to try. So the reason for making the jig was this knurling technique in the doing it in the vise. You can only tighten the vise up so much. If you tighten it up too much, then the file won't move. There's too much friction against the vise jaw, and it just won't move. And obviously, the tighter you do it, the better the knurling will come out. So the idea being, if it runs on bearings, then there's not much friction. It should move a lot easier, so I'll be able to make it a lot tighter. But the problem there is the bearings. They're just skateboard bearings. They're just not up to the task. They're just breaking too easy. So if we put the thumb screw against these two bearings here, that's the idea, and then the file in there, and then the whole thing goes in the vise, and it clamps the other bearings up the other side, and then it should be able to run and leave the knurling like that. But the problem I found, first of all, I had one bearing in the middle here for the file. That didn't work because there was far too much pressure on it, and in no time at all the outside of the bearing just cracked. So I put two bearings on that side. That fixed that up, and they seem pretty good now running on those two bearings. But what I did find is when I'm hitting this this file here, I'll put the thumb screw in there. When I'm hitting the file, it's too much force on this bearing here, and this one kept failing. The other three were fine. I know you can see that one's broken, but not from doing that. So the next thing I tried was I've locked these two nuts on there, and I thought this was going to do it. I thought I was onto it. So put the file back in. So what I did then is got the impact driver and turned it. So I thought because it's not hitting it, it won't put that force onto this bearing here. But that didn't work. It actually puts too much force on both of these two. And you can see what's happened here. It just, even this one's gone as well. It's made a mess of them. So that's where I'm up to. So the last thing I can think of trying is getting rid of the bearings this side and make a fence that goes along here. So another piece of plate, but it doesn't go all the way. So there's room for the thumb screw to ride along there and against the fence and not have bearings at all. And then maybe put 3 or 4 bearings along this side here for the file to run on. It'll keep the file straight, so again there's not too much friction on the file. It will actually be running on 3 or 4 bearings, and this side won't have much friction either. It'll run along that fence. So that's the last thing I'm going to try. If it doesn't work, then the whole thing's a failure. But anyway, I'm giving it a go. I like the idea, but it's not quite working. I have actually got one more idea as well. I was having a look on eBay and at knurling tools. I was trying to find a hand knurling tool. I did find one, and it was about $600, but actually that wasn't on eBay, that was somewhere else. But anyway, what I did find on eBay is you can buy just the knurling wheels without the tool. So then I thought, if I could bolt 2 knurling wheels on here and then do this method what I was talking about here, where I clamp, so I'm not going to use a file, that's the idea. I'll just close the 2 bearings up. If you imagine these were knurling wheels, then I could turn those with the impact driver, or even just a socket and wrench and do it that way. So that's another idea, and I saw you could get 2 of those for about $10, something like that. So that may be worth a look too. So anyway, that's what's happening.